Es el momento de los que se atreven a transformar, a luchar sin importar los obstáculos, a trabajar incansablemente por superarse a sí mismo, a aportar conocimiento a la región que los vio nacer. Este es el instante donde debemos pensar en nuestro futuro y caminar por el sendero correcto para vivir en plenitud. Esta es tu oportunidad. Sabemos de tus sueños, anhelos, metas, esos que te impulsan día a día a trabajar por alcanzarlo y recoger frutos para obtener la satisfacción de la tarea cumplida. Ser profesional significa vigor, constancia y dedicación. Sabemos que con ello serás el orgullo de tu familia, el líder de grandes proyectos y el que entregará todo de sí para cambiar el mundo. En la UCO tenemos todas las herramientas para que lo logres. Hagamos que pase.
Good afternoon, everybody, teachers and students and all the audience who are in this live, here to learn about how to use project-based activities incorporating technology. I am Natalia Vallejo, full-time professor at Universidad Católica de Oriente, and it's my pleasure to host this launching of the new certificate in bilingual education. On behalf of the Universidad Católica de Oriente and ELT think tank, we would like to extend a very warm welcome to all of you. We appreciate you taking time off your busy schedules to join us today. We also would like to thank ELT think tank, Educación Permanente, Idiomas UCO, and Faculty of Education and its bachelor degree program in foreign languages, who have made this event and this certificate possible. And of course, our special recognition to Macmillan Education for this great team talk. Thank you very much. So today's events proceedings are as follows. First of all, we are going to have our team talk about learning how to use project-based activities incorporating technology. After that, we are going to have a small space for asking questions for the main speakers. Later on, we are going to invite Tatiana, who is going to present the new certificate. And after that, we are going to give you some directions in order to register to this certificate. So let's start. Project-based activities incorporating technology. The teaching and learning practices have changed drastically in the last few months. Teachers have to become more resourceful and creative to maintain students interested in learning and actively engaged to ensure learning. Project-based learning, although not new to the teaching profession, has to be carefully adapted for remote learning. In this session, today, this afternoon, we will explore how and key elements and procedures to keep in mind for teachers and students to shine. So let me introduce the main speakers and the people who are going to be with us today. We are going to start with Professor Rogelio Chacón. He holds a bachelor degree in psychology from Universidad de San Carlos de Guatemala. He attended and completed the Teachers Training Course, TTC, at CIAV, one of the most prestigious academies of English in Guatemala. There, he taught regular English courses for 10 years and TTC courses for 5 years. Some of the courses he taught were skills, linguistics, children courses, phonology, grammar, among others. Professor Rogelio also attended the Madison Area Technical College, MATC, for an intensive advanced English course in Madison, Wisconsin. Professor Rogelio also taught in the finishing school program for call centers in Guatemala, where he prepared teenagers to start working in the call center industry. This program is sponsored by the European Union and has brought over 3,000 people to the call center industry. Rogelio is currently the academic consultant for Macmillan, Guatemala. Professor Rogelio, welcome. Now, let me introduce Professor Angel Bonilla. Professor Angel holds a master's degree in teaching English to speakers of other languages from the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. There, he taught English to Asian and Latin American undergraduate students, reading for academic purposes, structure, and pronunciation tutorials. Professor Angel also holds a postgraduate degree from the University of Costa Rica in teaching English as a second language. While in the program, Professor Angel taught students majoring in EFL, reading, writing, ESP courses, and cross-cultural communication. Professor attended the University of Texas at El Paso for an intensive academic program for teachers of English of Central America, where language, culture, and pedagogy were the focus. Professor Angel has worked for the Centro Cultural Costarricense Norteamericano, an academic coordinator overseeing not only the academic unit, but also the administrative aspects of one of its branches. He also coordinated the Executive English program and the Outreach program as well. Among their responsibilities, Professor Angel supervised teachers, teacher training, designed ESP courses, tests, and evaluated curricular implementations. He is currently the academic coordinator for Macmillan Education overseeing Central America, Panama, and the Caribbean. So you are very welcome, and we are going to be delighted in order to know how to learn to use project-based activities incorporating technology. So Professor Rogelio, Professor Angel, welcome, and the microphone in this live session is all yours.
Thank you very much for this warm welcome. And yes, we're ready to rock. So let's begin with that. So let me just go back to sharing my screen to make sure that I'm ready for this. Are you able to see my screen right now?
In this moment, Professor, yes, we are. Thank you very much.
Beautiful.
It's right there.
All right. So good afternoon, everybody. Once again, it is our pleasure, let's say, to be here sharing with you ideas, strategies, techniques, experiences of everything we've done, let's say, in our classes, and also experiences that we've gained throughout the years that you may find useful and practical for your classes. We're going to be, let's say, navigating through this interesting topic that is project-based learning. And in project-based learning, there is a wealth of information that you may look into. However, today we want to make it practical. So this is going to be a team talk with Rogelio. So we're going to be bouncing back ideas of each other's heads so that, let's say, this sounds and looks a little bit more interactive. I'm going to begin by just, let's say, showing you the title of the session with a picture that might have been a typical picture some months ago, some years ago. But today, due to the changes with the COVID-19, students are no longer in the classrooms and they are maybe home or from a different scenario. And what they're doing is, let's say, using technology just to get back, let's say, to the teachers with information and with, let's say, examples denoting or showing how much they have progressed either on their own or with the help of somebody else. So in project-based learning, we're going to be exploring specifically two specific elements, okay, or two specific objectives, I'm sorry. The first one is going to be on key elements to keep in mind. What is it that makes this a true project-based learning focus? And the second one is going to be a more specific take on activities and tasks that either yourselves can put into practice in your classes, be it with small children, with adolescents, with young adults, or whatever setting you are, let's say, working in at this point in time. All right. So with this, we're gonna just begin our conversation, and we call it time to talk. So I'm gonna be addressing some questions to Rogelio, and Rogelio is gonna be, let's say, having this conversation with me. Because one of the main concerns teachers have today, that is the product of project-based learning, it is how to make the students a little bit more independent. But before I actually ask Rogelio this question, I wanna, tease him a little bit and ask him this, the following question. Rogelio, what was your first impression when you heard this concept for the first time? So I don't know when it was, if it was, let's say, a year, 2 years, 10 years ago, when somebody mentioned this project-based learning. What came to your head? Go ahead.
Okay, hi. Thank you. Okay, so the first thing that came to my head when I heard project-based learning the first time was like some activities that we can do in the classroom with the students, right? But, only like to provoke teamwork in the classroom. That's it. And I thought it was like something that had to be done like in 10 or maybe 15 minutes the most. That's the idea that I had the first time I heard about project-based learning, right? It's just like give them some activities to do in 10 or 15 minutes, and that's it. And if I had the time, they would have the chance to present in front of the class.
Thank you, Rogelio. And yes, it might have been the same situation for most of you. That first impression, um, working in teams, working, let's say, collaborating with each other, doing something together. But project-based learning goes beyond that. And that is one of, let's say, the objectives that we have for you today and with you. We just want to make sure that you deeply, you understand, let's say, the concept, and you can navigate with us. In some of the, let's say, to add to the comment Rogelio made, which is, let's say, he was totally, let's say, true to that concept. But today in project-based learning, we also want to get the students to become a little more independent. Um, Teachers not longer have the control of the classes. They not longer possess all of the information and the knowledge. In one way or another, you want to give the possibility and open up avenues for each one of the students, let's say, in the classroom. So Rogelio, go ahead with the second concept we're gonna take over today.
Okay, thank you. So something that is going to be really important when we are using PBL in our lessons is that we need to connect the content with the real world scenarios. But the question is how, right? Because saying that is very simple, very easy, and it sounds nice. But the problem is how? How do we do it? And you know what? The answer is, in a way, simple. What you have to do here is that you need to create relevant content for the students or to the students, okay? To make them engage with it. So according to their ages and according to their interests. If you can do that, then your lesson is gonna be successful.
Most definitely, that is one of the challenges teachers have in bringing the outside world into their classes. And not only those two, let's say, aspects should be considered, but throughout the process, in teaching in general, we want to see results. We want to see that the students move from point A to point B or from point A to point Z. And along the way, they need to demonstrate that they've grown. And this growth they will show has to do or will be in terms of skills. Students will be able to do things they couldn't do before. And teachers need to keep track of that progress. Teachers need to measure one way or another how much they are able to do that they couldn't do before. So all of those three elements are, let's say, the basic ingredients that will make PBL effective in your classes. But again, if you just go for one of them, it is not going to make the trick. Okay, in order to, let's say, have the full impact, teachers have to consider all those three elements. And let us explore a little bit more on the information that we have for you today. Throughout the process, students are going to be integrating not only their speaking abilities, their listening abilities, their writing abilities, and or their reading abilities. They also going to be dealing a little bit with, let's say, developing life skills. And maybe you know about them. You might have heard about it, about this with a different name. Rogelio, would you mind elaborating on the second part of the statement? Life skills. What does it entail? What is going to happen in the classrooms when the students are working in projects?
Sure, sure. Okay, so when we're talking about life skills, you know that those skills are ones that are a must nowadays. I mean, it's not only necessary to speak a language in this case, if you are teaching English, for example. So companies, if you're looking for a job, are going to evaluate different skills or different abilities that they want you to have, and those are to be developed in the classroom when you are a young learner, right? So those skills, as you know, are some of them are creativity, critical thinking, right? Communication, collaboration, and all of those are developed if you start working with projects in your classroom. So that's why this kind of approach to your lessons is really, really interesting, and it's gonna give you, or it's gonna bring results to the class.
Sure, they're a plus. So students no longer are measured in or evaluated just based on their speaking abilities, but how effective they may become, whether they're able to give solutions to problems. And they go hand in hand. It is not, let's say, a matter of a choice any longer. They should go together. And that is the reason why we grew so interested in this, let's say, topic that we are developing with you today. So the answer to consolidate and develop, let's say, linguistic skills and life skills, let's say, is going to be through project-based learning. Throughout, let's say, the students' work, and be it in the classrooms, be it outside of the classroom, be it with somebody else, be it individually, we need to be clear that the philosophy behind project-based learning has to do with these three pillars. We need to make sure that, let's say, students are able to understand the information that comes, let's say, to them. And here we can go back to, let's say, all of those, maybe you remember the I+1 theory, right? Where the students they have to be given the input that they are able to process, but they should also be given this little one step ahead that is a challenge. Okay, so again, we're not going to talk about, let's say, those little aspects, but we are interested in your understanding that for students to be able to move on, they need to make sense of the information that goes, let's say, through the ears. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to respond, to reply, to react. So we need, in the process, we need to build that very clearly, very carefully, and very creatively too. So go ahead, Rogelio.
Okay, thank you. So the next thing we want to do, or we want to make sure, is that we give them content, right, or knowledge after they have understood what we want them to understand. Then we can start sharing, start delivering the content we want to use in our lessons, right? And that's when knowledge it's going to happen in the classroom, and students are going to be feeding their brains, you know, and then they're going to be able to use that knowledge to be applied in their lives. And that's when the third element happens, Angel.
Sure, sure. And when the students come to a test, whatever the system they are in looks like, those examinations ultimately they will look into what is it that the students are able to do now that they couldn't do before. So teachers no longer pay attention whether the students, let's say, comprehend the information that comes to their ears or through their eyes. Teachers no longer pay attention to how much the students, let's say, hold in their heads, but actually what they can do with this. So going into the skills, and again, if we are into a skill-based setting, we will invite students to demonstrate, to show. And that is the reason now or today, you go for those, let's say, um, descriptors that will go like this. I can, I can talk, I can describe, I can convince, I can understand, okay? And I can argue. And all of those elements are, let's say, the ones that we're looking for when we talked about, let's say, developing skills. So again, keeping in mind those three pillars, it is going to do the trick in the classrooms. This is the model that teachers should be following or practitioners in general, okay? Because maybe you're not a teacher, but you're a practitioner. That's the way that I like to call it. And in this pattern, this is, let's say, to put it the outside layer, this is like an onion, so many rings that you need to peel one at a time. So that, let's say, students will go step by step and they develop and they grow with you, or you help them grow inside the classes. The outside a frame, which is, let's say, what the teacher does. It is simply making sure that specific things are going to happen in the process. And this is, let's say, where it's going to do, again, the trick, or is going to do the magic in the classes. And the students inside the process, they have to begin first questioning themselves. Okay, this is not like, I don't know, what is it that I'm doing in life? No. The questions gotta be posed in such a way that they will invite the students to think, to analyze, to evaluate, to look for solutions, to look for options if that is the case. And once they're clear on what is it that they want to do, the second stage comes in, which is the planning. And in this planning stage, they will decide what resources they have. And here it is when you come and use a little bit of technology. You may need to define to the students or for the students how they're going to be laying out the project. This is going to be first individually, then in groups. It's going to be, let's say, through a web quest. It's going to be through a drive where they put the information and everybody collaborates. Is it going to be segmented into different, let's say, sections for everybody to do or create their own part and then put it all together and agree to it? And then eventually they will move to the next, to the third stage. Rogelio, go ahead.
Okay, the third step, which is research, right? And this can be done in different ways depending on your students' ages or English levels, right? So this one can be guided, right? In case you want them to look for specific information in specific websites, let's say that way, or in specific resource or sources of information, right? Newspaper or magazines or web pages, as I said before, right? You can do it that way, or simply you can ask the question, the big question that you ask at the beginning, and have them do the research by themselves alone, if they are able to do it, right? So the teacher plays an important role here because he or she has to know their students' skills or their students' abilities, right? And at the same time, you as a teacher have to be guiding them or monitoring the work they're doing in each of these steps. Okay, good.
Definitely. Go ahead.
Then the next one or the next step after the research, they need to create. They need to create, let's put it this way, content. According to the first questions they had, it's like they're finding answers to the question, right? Or solutions to a problem if it was a problem at the beginning of the project, right? So after the research, they need to start creating that. So putting all the ideas together, putting all the information together to come up with one answer or one solution in common, right? And after they have done that, they want to improve it. right? Because this is just like the first result. They want to evaluate and they want to go over it again, and in order to improve it, right? And in order to come up with the final product, which is the one they're going to present to the class if it is the case, or it could be they could present it to other schools or to other institutions or even in other countries. It depends on how, how far you can get with the project and with your students.
Sure. And if you see, Rogelio, when I asked you at the beginning, the first impression that you had, normally teachers believe that project-based learning is just, let's say, including the last element, doing a presentation. And that is not project-based learning. It might include a presentation, but it might also include, I don't know, a written output. It may be something, a creation, creating a model, creating a diagram, if that is the case. But I just want to draw your attention that each one of those pillars by itself is not project-based learning. You might be familiar with the concept of task-based learning, which is again included in the process of project-based learning. And we need to make sure that all of those, let's say, steps take place. Otherwise, students will be at a loss. Students, let's say, wouldn't develop the independence that we want them to develop. Students wouldn't be able to train their brains in a different way or different manners so that they respond not only, let's say, to the needs in the classroom or to respond to the questions the teachers pose, but also to the real world setting. And in here, just to recap, I want to go and summarize some of the elements we just mentioned. We talked about engaging students, crucial, because otherwise they wouldn't see the need to participate in the classroom or outside of the classes. The second element, go ahead.
Okay, it is to provide an environment conducive to skill acquisition, crucial for education in general and the workplace, right? So here we want to make emphasis on this, right? To provide an environment. So this is your job as a teacher, because if it is not helpful for the students, they're going you or the students are not going to achieve the objectives.
Definitely. Consolidation, which is, let's say, another aspect to consider. You might be working at an institution where you work with projects in science, in, I don't know, social studies, maybe history, maybe you do it in the geography class, maybe even you do it in the Spanish class. The point is that PBL works, it is like one size fits all. It is multi-purpose, multi-skill, and multi-level. And you, let's say, when you implement it effectively, you may be able to connect it to everything that you do inside the classroom. Again, it is not only to make sure that the students know how to use a grammatical structure, which is not the point over here, but they can use that structure when discussing, when writing, when talking about it, or when conversing with somebody else. Rogelio?
And finally, what we want when we are using PBL in the lessons is that we want to develop life skills, as we mentioned before, right? Because those are the ones that are going to guarantee, in a way, that students are going to be successful in their lives, in whatever environment they are. So keep in mind, I know, I'm pretty sure that everybody here is familiar with that expression, right? Tell me and I'll forget. Show me and I'll remember. And involve me and I will understand. And of course, I will develop these famous skills that are going to be very useful for your students to apply in their lives.
Definitely. So just to make sure that we're clear on this, we're gonna set up a little example with you, and this you might take, or you might use with very small children, but you could also apply it to older audiences as well. So the elements that we need to keep in mind in here are the following. Everything the students do in the classrooms or in their classrooms should be and could be aligned to the standards. Teachers gotta be clear on what is it that my students are able to do because they are, I don't know, statters, or they are movers, or they are flyers, or what is it that my students are able to do because they are A1, A2, B1, B2, and C1 students. It is not simply go and get together and find information about. No, 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 no. One way or another, everything has to come together. And pretty much I use the analogy of PBL as cooking, where you use a lot of ingredients, and of course you use condiments, and you use specific, let's say, elements simply to produce a dish. I don't know if you cook in lasagna, if you cook in, I don't know, if you're creating the famous bandeja paisa, right? You got specific elements in there, and if one is missing, then it is not. The other element that you got to have clear, and you have to share with the students before the project begins, is how they're going to be evaluated. Assessment, checking, measuring the students all the way through, guiding, let's say, the students to improve, guiding the students to be better at whatever they're doing. Go ahead, Raheli.
Okay, good. Another element that you're gonna find in PBL is that it is student centered, right? It means that every single activity or any single project, every single project that you plan has to be student centered. Okay, so you need like to understand their interests. The project has to be based on something that students are going to be attracted to. It's not something that the teacher likes, or it is not something that the teacher worries about. It has to do with the kids, right? So it is always student centered. And of course, collaboration, as we said before, is one of those life skills that we want to develop in the classroom. And incorporating PBL into our lessons, we're going to be able to have the students to collaborate with each other and learn how to do it, because, you know, especially kids, they don't know how to do it because they think the world is me, right? I'm the only one that exists, and they can start learning how to do this, which is not simple for them.
Definitely. And if you pay attention, let's say, to the descriptors we have to the left and to the picture we have to the right, sometimes teachers believe that a project is a labor kind of what driven activity. And yes, the project could be to plant, let's say, 200 trees, but that doesn't have a linguistic output. So teachers don't get confused. That is the reason we have the pictures and the descriptions, for you to make sure that everything that you do in the classroom has, let's say, those ingredients. Connecting to the real world will make it more relevant, will make it more meaningful and more engaging to the students. And of course, using multimedia will make it even more attractive. There's no secret that today's kids in general, they say they use a cell phone, or they are next to the computer, they are next to the tablet, or they are, let's say, in the lookout for whatever message I get in my cell phone so that I could reply. And we need to take advantage of that, okay? So I'm gonna use a little example over here, simply to illustrate how to get the students interested and engaged, and how we can bring the outside world to the classes, and how to build from there into making the students think and inviting the brain to process. All right. So Rogelio, what do you know about this type of snake? Tell me one thing that you know about this snake.
Um, that it's gonna be dangerous. It's dangerous.
Okay, it is dangerous, definitely, definitely. And maybe here we want to use a more specific word. Maybe we want to use it is venomous, right? So
Okay.
the coral snake is a venomous, let's say, snake, and it has, let's say, a particular color. Let me share with you the king snake. And the king snake is totally the opposite of the coral snake. It is a very, let's say, I don't know, friendly snake that is not venomous. All right. But this king snake, even though it is not venomous, she wants to look like the coral snake. And that is something intriguing in in nature in general. I'm gonna show you another picture, okay, which is let's say a moth. okay? And this moth, let's say one way or another copies, let's say what is around her, okay? So wants to copy the surrounding, but in this case, it is not copying the surrounding because the surrounding is dangerous. It is simply, you know, she wants to pass by undetected in nature, if that is the case. So, Rogelio, what do you think could be the topic that we want to address over here with those pictures? Let me go back. Okay, that a snake copying another dangerous and venomous snake, and a moth just copying the environment to be undetectable. What do you think is the topic of this class?
Maybe mechanisms they use to survive, right? Could be camouflage, right?
Definitely, camouflage and mimicry. So we're talking about mimetism. It could be another word, let's say you may know about, but this is the way that you start connecting the real world with the classroom. But let's say that doesn't do the trick. You need to be clear because the first one element that I show you in the steps or in the process was the questions or questioning the students or inviting the students to question themselves. So in here, the question could be, how is this mechanism being copied by human beings and being used in real life? Can you give me an example, Rogelio?
Okay, the only one I can think of is probably the army, right? For wars, when they're, you know, in the field, they need to camouflage, right? So the enemy doesn't detect them, right?
Definitely, definitely. But if the audience at this moment, you know, if you were with me in my classroom or in a classroom, then I will ask you to simply go for maybe a brainstorming, and I'll give you a couple of minutes and ask you what other applications has the concept of camouflage or mimicry, let's say, being used in our daily day-to-day lives. What other things have, you know, man created that copy nature? And you will, I know that you will come with 1,000 possibilities, all right? Not only the one Rogelio just gave, but some others that might be particularly, let's say, specific to the places where you come from. I know we have audiences from Puerto Rico today, and then we have participants from Peru and Colombia and Venezuela and some other countries. And the application of this concept of camouflage and mimicry can be at a different level. But this is, let's say, the point where I invite my students to, you know, see the need to investigate what other applications are there. And then you can set up web quests. And then you can give the students specific URLs where they go and they read information about it. Then you will see maybe invite the students to listen to podcasts and listen to somebody else, maybe a scientist who developed a specific way of copying nature. If you know about the stealth, let's say, plane that kind of disappears in the air when the flare or the glare of the light, that is also copying nature. So students will be invited from different avenues, different windows to explore the topic, to investigate, to do some research, to, you know, begin this process of taking notes, deciding what information is important, and eventually, why not, creating their own application of, let's say, camouflage in their own lives as a student. You know, again, when you don't want to be seen by the teacher, you want to be invisible. So you will use that technique so the teacher doesn't see you and doesn't ask you a question. So again, you can go in many different directions to make it close to the real world the students are in, and to make it relevant and to make it engaging, to make them think, to make them write and talk and discuss, and maybe even share and present with somebody else. All right. So continuing with this concept, we want to go back and just remind you of how to put that within a shell, how to put this within a container that will guarantee success in your classes. Go ahead, Rogelio.
Okay, good. So here in this map, you can see some boxes or some squares, right? In the first one, we have um, content. Then we also have activities and results, and that's what the teacher planned, right? The teacher is gonna give the kids, or I'm sorry, the students, right? Not necessarily kids. It's gonna give the students the content, the questions, the problem, right? For them to create content through activities, and of course, they are going to produce, as I said before. Remember, they're going to create the answer, they are going to create the solution, then they are going to improve it to produce or to present the results to the classmates or to the audience, right? And that's how the teacher is going to be able to see, or it's going to be able to evaluate the results. But you know, something that I like about this is that this is not only the teacher, students are also going to be able to see the results, and they're going to see, they're going to be conscious that they are learning and they are improving their skills, right?
Definitely. And when working with the content, if you take a look at the first picture, in the past, it was simply the information the teachers gave to the students. Today, it is the students finding the information, okay? Information that is at the tip of the fingers, and that is going to be on a website. Maybe the teacher will set up a drive with folders with a specific information he or she wants the students to look into, because he is evaluating reading techniques and he is recycling specific vocabulary. In the past, students, let's say, did this in the classroom. Today, they do it from a computer, from home, or a combination of both. And when we work in the activities in the past, we had teachers with the entire group. Today, we had maybe the parents guiding the students in that process, or maybe when the students are face to face with the teachers, they are double checking on the content they're producing to finally come up with, let's say, the end result, as Rogelio mentioned it. And again, the boxes are the teacher's steps, and the inner, let's say, activities or steps are what the students are going to be entirely to themselves, to let creativity go and to demonstrate how much they have learned. So just recapping, the content we want to, let's say, focus on has to do with a specific curricular content. Maybe you're familiar with the name of CLIL. Okay, so sometimes it is a specific content the teacher wants to address or wants to evaluate or focus on, but also it could be a problem. It could be something that is happening around them. I don't know, pollution, transportation. It could be even internet connection, how to make it faster, how to make it more reliable, how to make the learning environment for the students more conducive to that, how to make students feel more comfortable, how to avoid those high levels of frustration students feel when working in distance, let's say, formats. And of course, one way or another, students will be putting together all that information to make sense of it. And again, what we're looking for is English. That is the entire, let's say, end result that we're looking for. Getting the students to talk and to use English. And finally, just make sure that teachers do not, let's say, any longer choose for the students, but have the students choose what they're interested in and what calls or draws their attention to it. Okay, Rogelio?
Okay, good. So the second part is the activities part. Okay, so here we want to have real world outcomes, right? So students create complex and sophisticated products to demonstrate learning. This is really important because, as we have said or we have mentioned before, one element of this approach, project-based learning, is that they need to create something. They need to have evidence of learning in the classroom, and that's why we have this here in this slide, right? So they have to create products to demonstrate learning. Second is that students participate in self-assessment, which is important because you want them to become independent, right? You want them to be aware of um, what their learning style is. So how is it that they learn things, and what is the way they don't learn things, right? Because maybe reading doesn't work for me, or maybe watching videos doesn't work for me, right? But that's why self-assessment is really, really important in your projects, right? And finally, the students show development or progress. And this is done when they present, right? And as I said before, they become conscious and aware that they have learned, and they know they're able to do it, because at the beginning they are not confident maybe, but at the end of the process they are going to be confident, and they see that working together they can accomplish whatever goal they have. Okay.
Sure. And do not forget the project-based learning is a process-based format. I'm interested in the step-by-step. I'm not interested that much in the end product. The end product, yes, there will be an end product, an end result, but the students will grow along the way. And if I do not support my students, and if I don't give the proper guidance, then the end product is not going to be what I expected, and definitely will not meet the even the standards that we have set for the activities. Finally, again, it is straightforward. Maybe it doesn't need much description in here. It is simply to make sure that we engage students' minds and bodies. Okay, that investigation or research is one way to give content from a different source to students, be it that you photocopy and you send it to the students, and or you send an audio file, and or you send a picture, and or you you prescribe the URLs that they have to visit. So it is like playing ping pong. It is going and coming, serving and returning. That is what happens in PBL. And we want the students to be, of course, they learn to be tolerant, they learn to be patient, they learn to respect, they learn to agree and disagree, they learn to be a better students and better classmates, better citizens. So this constant work, this constant working together, it is what is going to do the trick. And we just need to keep an eye on it. And of course, what we talked at the beginning, the second part of the focus, it is on integrating everything. I guess that throughout the examples we've given today, it's been very clear to you that it is not teachers in control of the classrooms. It is students in control of the topics. It is students in controls of the themes. It is students finding ways to make themselves understood, finding ways to better say things. Normally, one aspect that I pay attention to, and I invite my students to have right there on the front lobe, it is say what you mean and mean what you say. Sometimes the students, they know what they want to say, but they don't know how to say it. And sometimes they say it, but the teachers understand otherwise. And it is simply because they haven't developed the skills to communicate effectively, if that is the case. These are examples that of activities that you can do with the students. I'm sorry, these are not activities. These are projects that you can do with the students in the class. And of course, everybody knows about recycling, but recycling has nothing linguistic in it. Okay, it is, I don't know, putting plastic and glass together, putting paper and other types of materials together. But if you turn it around, for example, and you invite the students to, let's say, in how to use plastic bottles to create a hydroponic garden. In that beautiful project, then we'll invite the students, yes, I want to cultivate whatever, carrots and celery and or any other, let's say radishes or beets any product in their own gardens where maybe they don't have a space. So the concept of using something that is that can be recycled, but let's say giving it a twist will make it more attractive and will bring it to the point. Of course, if you're working with adolescents, maybe you can bring recycling at a different level. Maybe you can use how to make a robot, let's say, with plastic bottles. How can you create a new toy using the caps of the bottles? So this concept, again, teachers, those are general umbrella terms that maybe we have used over and over the same way, but we need to turn them around to make them interesting. The same as culture. It is not, let's say, how different Colombians are from Venezuelans, or Peruvians from Chileans, or Costa Ricans from, I don't know, Panamanians. No, 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 no. It is, let's say, what is in our culture that I could share with somebody else? Maybe I can take it in terms of what? Let's say toys. The toys we use as kids, how they differ from, country to country. And of course, in the meantime, the students can go and create literature along the way. They can create their own booklets and then present it at a fair if need be. So those are, again, different ways to take a look at it. So Rogelio, I leave you with the next one.
Okay, let's do it like very quick because I know that we're running out of time. So can you
Yeah.
please just, the elements that we want to do or incorporate here in drama are, can you click on the,
Sure, I'm sorry.
okay, good. So it could be short stories, tales, and just one quick idea of what you can do here is that you can change, for example, the end of a tale, or you can change the characters, so I don't want to use a lion, let's use an elephant. Or what would you do if you were the lion, right? Or what would you do if you were the elephant, right? So those activities are going to help very much in your class, because those are gonna get the students thinking, which is at the end what we want, right?
Mm-hmm. Definitely producing, and here comes more specifically, and Rogelio is going to give you a more detailed example of how to work with research in the classroom if that is necessary. So, are you ready, Rogelio?
Sure, sure. So here, the first thing that we want to do is that we want to engage the students with the topic. So can you please show the other picture? So what I would do here is ask them the question, right? Hey, do you know who he is? Do you guys know who he is? Right? And I don't know if you are typing some answers in the chat box, right? But I hope you are. But if you don't know who this guy is, so let me show you. Can you please show them the name? The name, please, the other one. Okay, Helmut Bellingrad, right? And you know what he did? He was the first Colombian who won an Olympic medal so that's why he's so important in sports history for Colombia. And from here, you can start telling them what the Olympic Games are and what the symbol or the logo represents, who created it, how many sports are there in the Olympic Games, and how many people have won medals for Colombia or for South America. But this is not the most important thing, because you know what? You don't want to ask the students questions that they can Google. So you cannot ask them the question, hey, do you guys know who was the first person who won a medal for the Olympic Games? Because that's easy to get. You want to make them think. So next step is, okay, guys, what does it take to win an Olympic medal, right? So that's when they start the process of investigating, and if it is possible, they could even contact Helmut, right? Because I guess that today he's 71 years old, he's alive, right? And of course, you have more and more athletes who have won medals in the Olympic Games, right? And at the end, the last question would be, how these elements can help you in your life, how these elements, being disciplined, becoming a healthy eater, creating habits, all those things that athletes have to incorporate into their lives, how they could help you achieve your goals, even when they are not about sports, right? If you want to be an architect, do you think being disciplined, being responsible is going to help you? And how is it going to help you, right? Or if you want to be a doctor, or whatever your goal or whatever your objective is, they are going to understand that we need basically the same. We need values and we need skills that we want to develop through the process, right?
Sure, it is connecting the same traits into different, let's say, disciplines, and how important that is to keep in mind. The last one that we had, let's say, is towards presentation. And normally teachers believe that projects are simply about presentations, but they are not. And here just we simply highlighted some of the possibilities the teachers can go with this. Sometimes it is not an oral presentation, it is just creating a map that denotates or somehow illustrates the students' process, what they went through, collecting data, analyzing data, putting data together, selecting what is important and relevant and what it is not. And of course, if you want to go for the invitation on a roundtable and or a debate, it could also be welcome in the classes. But since we're talking about technology, it could be that the students, let's say, upload their findings, they upload their presentations, and they have a different audience rate the presentations. Maybe they will have a different school take a look at the videos, and then do click like to them, and or use other means in which they should be or they could be connected and share information that they get instant feedback or immediate feedback to whatever they are presenting into the classes. All right. And last, if you want to go for the little ones, a show and tell procedure could also be a possibility if you wanted to go for it. I really like making videos, let's say, with my students, because they can create their own stories, they can create their own versions of a tale, they can go to different places in their communities and highlight maybe an island, maybe they can go for the skyline of the city and start and create maybe, I don't know, a movie script, whatever that is. Maybe they will draw the, the, the sketch of a movie if that is, let's say, possible. So there are endless possibilities of what you could do with the students. And just, let's say, to come to the end of our sharing with you, teachers, it is just to have these two sides of the coin. We wanted, we know you know, but we just wanted to remind you that, let's say, traditional teaching doesn't bring or doesn't take students to become independent, doesn't challenge the students enough, doesn't engage the students' minds. And we want to move from what you have to the left to what you have on the right. Okay, so we want to get or make sure that the students want to do it. We want to make sure that students want to participate, that they are motivated, what we call intrinsic motivation, which is so difficult to get. It is only brought to the classes when the students like what the teachers propose, when the teachers take into considerations their own needs and aspirations. Remember that when you work with teenagers, they have these different abilities, they have different personalities, they have different aspirations, they have different, let's say, even cultural backgrounds, if you want to put it that way. And in the projects, you allowed everybody to shine, and that is what we want to see happening in the classes. So just because of the information that you have to the right, it is that we cannot emphasize enough the benefits of a project-based learning. And to close it, just remember, teachers, when we were face to face, we had to be creative. Now that we do distance teaching, we have to be even more creative. We have to make sure that the students move on at the same pace, hopefully in the four linguistic or language skills levels. We need to innovate. We need to learn. We need to keep on learning. And then, of course, we need to invite them to communicate. It is easier to hide behind a camera. Students can tell you, the connection just dropped, internet just died, but it is simply because they don't like your classes. We need to learn to understand the messages. And of course, the last one is think out of the box. Maybe you want to consider and think that there is no box at all in teaching. All right. So we decided to share with you this at the end or towards the end, just in case you wanted to take a look at to the literature that we used for our presentation today. It comes from Bjork. And this, we invite you to take advantage of this philosophy of working with students, so that, let's say, they become your friends, they become your allies, and they will love your classes. They will die to be with you every single day, even though it is on a computer or through a computer. Okay? This is the reference. We can share with you later on in the chat. And we cannot thank you enough for being such a beautiful audience. And if you had questions, well, it is a time for the questions. And if you want to reach out for each one of us, there you have our information. So I'll turn to the hosts to see if there are questions in the chat for Rogelio or myself.
Okay, professors, thank you very much for this overview about project-based learning. As we are running out of time, but we have a question, and it is that, well, here in Colombia, due to the pandemic, not all of the teachers are having the opportunity of having synchronous classes or classes through platforms, but instead, they're having classes through WhatsApp. They are not having any contact with the students, but they're sending workshops and things like that. So what would be a suggestion for those teachers that if they would like to implement project-based learning in such way of teaching, what would be a suggestion for them?
Okay, you want to begin, Rogelio?
Thank
Or
you.
want me to begin? Okay, remember that when we're talking about a project, it is a process, okay? So one of the recommendations would be that teachers design the project and then make it in small, let's say, segments or chunks, so that they will walk with the students in the process. So maybe the first section, it'll be on training the students on brainstorming for the questions that they want to explore. And the students, they will learn the technique on note-taking. And the second step could be the students creating a chat group where they're going to be exchanging ideas, opinions, and points of view. Maybe the students will send to the teacher the audio files of their impressions on the topic. The teachers will select and edit the content that he considers it is maybe not relevant necessarily, but attractive for the audience. Then the next step, it will be, let's say, the students sending the draft, the proposal. So in this case, the students will give each other's feedback, as we mentioned in one of the slides. They need to be critical, okay, of their own work. So again, it is not simply telling the students, go home, find information about it, and I'll see you in a month, and then you will present it to the group. No, you need to work with the students. You need to take them by the hand, and you need to identify which is the medium of instruction, or which is the medium in which they're going to benefit the most. Again, I don't want my students to go all the way into the internet. I want to give them specific sites where I know they will find information that is at their level, that is pertinent to the topic. And of course, I'm dealing with the smaller kids. I don't want parents to, to worry about visiting a site that is not for children, of course. All right. So again, dividing the project in steps. and guiding the students through it. It will be a way of ensuring success, let's say, towards the end. And as I said, it is not the end product, but the process that matters. That is the most important thing.
So thank you very much. We really appreciate your ideas. They are really useful, and of course, they are really inspiring for us teachers. So now I would like to welcome Tatiana Gomez from ELT Thank. So she is going to present, she's going to introduce this certificate about bilingual education. So Tatiana, go ahead. I'm sorry, ELT Think Tank. So Tati, go ahead.
Thanks a lot, Natalia. Well, I'm very happy to be here. Thank you so much to our presenters. It was a very interesting chat, and I think it goes hand in hand with what we're trying to do with this Diplomado en Educación Bilingüe, or a certificate in bilingual education. I'm going to go quickly because I know we've extended a little bit. So just to give you guys a general overview of what we're going to be doing in this Diplomado and what our expectations are in the certificate program. So first of all, one of the first things that we want to do is to be able to find ways to implement and use all of the different international strategies and pedagogical methodologies that are out there, specifically some of them like, for example, project-based learning and others, so that we can be able to not just think of these as individual strategies that are out there and that are currently trending, but at the same time are under the parameters of what's happening in Colombia and in Latin America. The most important thing for us is that in this certificate program, you're able to identify those key factors in all of those current trends, those key policies that are going on in our country and in our region, so that we can be able to really identify how we can improve the quality of education in our regional sectors, be it in our schools, in our cities, in our departments, in our regions, or in our countries, right? So that's the general focus of El Diplomado en Educación Bilingüe, or the certificate in bilingual education. Now, the methodology is going to have a few specific points that I want to mention. The first one is that we're going to be using a flipped learning methodology. Since this, due to the pandemic, we were initially thinking of launching this in a face-to-face environment, but now we're on 100% online, which means that you will be able to do a lot of different strategies to connect with the fellow teachers that you're doing this certificate program with. And one of those ways will be through flipped learning. We'll also have discussion groups where you'll be able to have critical thinking discussions and be able to see different cases from all over the region and see how these fit into the 3 modules that we've set up for you. Next, we'll have case studies that are exclusive from our region. These are case studies that have been designed and created especially for this certificate program. And we're also going to be working on a pre-project, an educational pre-project, so you guys can leave this certificate with something that's valuable, that's tangible, and that you can be able to implement in your schools or in your classrooms or in your language centers, depending on the sector that you work in. Now, the final part, and I think it's one of the most important things, that you will have an assigned mentor throughout the whole program, which will allow you to kind of have someone to ask questions or to go to, so that you can kind of bounce ideas off of for the pre-project, for the case studies. So this is a very hands-on course, or certificate, sorry, that will allow you to really recognize all of the different strategies and the different things that are going on in the bilingual education in Colombia and the region. Now, just to give you guys a bit more description of what's happening during the diplomado or the certificate, it's divided into 3 modules. Each module is going to have each module will have a total of 40 hours, which will give us a total of 120 hours for this certificate. We have an academic calendar, which you guys can see here. That means the courses will be starting on October 19th. The first module will finish on November 15th, and we'll have a little break so you guys can have vacation, can spend time with your families, even if it's remotely. And then we'll restart our courses again on January 19th for the second module, and then we'll keep going until March 14th, which will be the end of the certificate. Now, right now we're proposing 2 schedules so that people who are working and have other obligations can have the ability to participate in the synchronous sessions. So you will have asynchronous activities to do, but we do have 2 spaces that are dedicated to synchronous sessions with your teachers, which will have Fridays from 6 to 9 p.m. and Saturdays from 2 to 5 p.m., really kind of focusing on how we can be able to cater to the needs of everyone that we would want to take the certificate program. Now, this is more or less like the information that we have for the course. I just wanted to share with you guys just the overall of what the content of the course is. So in our first module, we're going to be talking about bilingualism in Colombia, and we'll also explore a little bit of Latin America as well. So the guiding question for our first module is, what theories and standards influence schools with bilingual education programs in Colombia and Latin America? So this way we can explore these. We have very enriched bibliography and strategies that can help us to really like go in deep, check this information, and then be able to obviously come up with different strategies so that we can learn as much as we can about bilingual education. In our second module, we'll be focusing on bilingualism policies. So in this case, our guiding question will be, what curriculum models and policies should be considered when designing a bilingual program? Remember that we have that pre-project that we're going to be working on. So the idea is that you guys leave equipped with all of the information you need to be able to design a project or a bilingual program. And in our third module, we have bilingualism current trends. This is where especially the chat that we just listened to comes in so handy, because we're going to be having our guiding question, which is how to use previous local, regional, national, and international bilingual education experiences to restructure your school's bilingual strategies. In this unit, we'll also see pedagogical strategies such as project-based learning. So from everything that we've shown you today, the idea is to really let you guys know that you have a program where you can come, be able to learn all about bilingual education and current trends that are occurring, including policies in our region, so that you can be able to implement and carry out projects on your own in this area. So I hope that you guys enjoy everything that we've put together for you, and that you've enjoyed everything that we've talked about in today's session. So thank you very much for having us. From ELT Think Tank, we also want to extend our our thanks to Macmillan and to UCO for being here and being alliances and partners in all of this, please. So thank you very much. Natalia, back to you. I was going to say Natalie.
It's okay. You don't worry, Tati. So, Tati, thank you very much. Of course, the certificate looks like really, really fruitful and engaging. So it is a great opportunity for us to continue improving our teaching practices. So there we are. And there we have a great invitation starting in almost 3 weeks, October
Yes, exactly.
the 19th. So just very hurry, and let's start continue growing and improving our teaching practices. Well, thank you. Now I'm going to switch into Spanish. Le vamos a dar entonces la bienvenida a Mónica Valencia. Ella es la jefe de educación permanente. En este momento, Mónica está con nosotros y nos va a dar algunas directrices, nos va a explicar entonces quienes estemos interesados en hacer este diplomado. Ella nos va a contar qué es lo que debemos hacer. Entonces, Mónica, muchísimas gracias por estar con nosotros. Te escuchamos entonces.
Muy buenas tardes. Reitero la bienvenida a este espacio desde el Centro de Educación Permanente, nuestro CEP virtual de la Universidad Católica de Oriente. Al igual, expresarles una cordial bienvenida a la aceptación de esta propuesta. Quiero confirmar, por favor. Ok. Bueno, las inscripciones para el diplomado en educación bilingüe están abiertas a partir de este momento en la página de la Universidad Católica de Oriente. Como bien nos lo mencionaba Tatiana, un diplomado con una intensidad de 120 horas. La modalidad que vamos a contemplar para el diplomado es virtual. de acuerdo a la información que tuvimos ahorita también, con una fecha prevista de inicio para el 19 de octubre de 2020 y fecha de terminación el 14 de marzo de 2021. Tenemos en la diapositiva un enlace de inscripciones, pero de igual forma lo acabo de compartir también en el chat de YouTube. Allí pueden tomar el enlace, los va a llevar directamente a la página de la universidad. Allí solamente deben ingresar con el número del documento de identidad y el sistema les va a solicitar una serie de datos personales. Son 3 pantallazos. En el tercer pantallazo van a elegir la opción del diplomado en educación bilingüe. Un diplomado con una intensidad de 120 horas tiene unas tarifas entre 1.800.000, 2 millones de pesos, pero en este caso y el Think Tank y la Universidad Católica de Oriente hemos querido ofrecerles a ustedes una tarifa muy especial. Tenemos una tarifa de 1.100.000 pesos con unos descuentos muy interesantes para egresados y estudiantes. Los podemos visualizar entonces en la pantalla. Las personas que deseen acceder a la financiación, deseen realizar el diplomado y no tenemos el dinero completo, el 100%, podemos acceder a una financiación que nos otorga la Universidad Católica de Oriente, cancelando un 50% para iniciar el diplomado y el 50% restante lo podemos cancelar en 2 cuotas más al mes de haber iniciado el programa y al mes siguiente la tercera cuota. Esta financiación genera un recargo por financiación, pero es un interés muy bajito del 1.95%. El primer paso entonces es registrarse en el enlace que acabamos de mencionar, que les acabamos de colocar en el chat de YouTube. Una vez ustedes estén registrados, las personas que deseen acceder al programa, recordemos por favor que es con cupo limitado, reciben un correo electrónico de la Universidad Católica de Oriente en el cual les confirmamos su inscripción. Los vamos a llamar, vamos a estar en contacto con ustedes para que nos cuenten la manera de acceder a la forma de pago, cómo desean cancelar y posteriormente recibirán en sus correos electrónicos la factura para que podamos estar dando feliz inicio al programa el 19 de octubre. Tenemos también habilitadas las líneas, el teléfono fijo del Centro de Educación Permanente 569-9090, extensión 306 o 679. Y en este móvil que les estamos mencionando en la pantalla, 321-672-9184, igual nos pueden contactar llamándonos o escribiéndonos al WhatsApp. Y también al correo electrónico del cual les hemos estado enviando información durante estos días. Por cualquier medio vamos a estar en contacto, vamos a atender sus requerimientos, sus inquietudes, cualquier dificultad que de pronto puedan tener en el proceso de inscripción. Lo importante es que tomemos datico de estos medios por el cual nos podemos contactar desde Educación Permanente y que podamos acceder a la inscripción fácilmente. Recuerden, desde la página de la Universidad Católica de Oriente, en el enlace que les estamos acá mencionando, o ingresan www.uco.edu.co, nos buscan en oferta académica, educación permanente. Muchísimas gracias a todos.
Mónica, a ti te agradecemos mucho y sabemos que vas a estar muy pendiente de recibir todas las solicitudes. And thank you very much for attending and for being in this live. Once again, I would like to thank ELT Think Tank, Educación Permanente, Idiomas UCO, the Bachelor Degree Program in Foreign Languages, of course, Professor Rogelio and Professor Angel, and Macmillan Education. Of course, thank you very much for all of you for being here. And there we have a great invitation and a good opportunity to improve and continue improving our teaching practices. I hope to see you again, and thank you very much. Bye-bye.